And then what? So how did you end up at Battlegoats? Did you study like computer science or development?
Nope, not at all. I cannot tell you how lucky I feel to be where I am, that circumstances definitely favored me. The owners at Battlegoat Studios, David and George, who own the company, prior to doing, and this is some of the history of the Supreme Ruler series, I'll sidebar slightly to toot our own horn, that we feel comfortable saying that the Supreme Ruler series is the longest running PC strategy game series. And the reason I can say that is George, one of the two owners, back in 1982 on the Atari ST, I might have gotten that bit wrong, but in 82 he released Supreme Ruler. That this began as a 5 1/4 floppy disk, hot seat, multi-playable, and we've still got an Atari sitting around at George's house. It's been a couple of years, but he booted it up a few years back. We tossed in the 5 1/4, and of course, all you could do, you had 640K of RAM. So the total system that you could set up was very small, that you had to make decisions about your population, decisions about your diplomacy, decisions about your military, and then let it run. And it was one of those where hot seat, everybody would decide, a bit like a game of diplomacy. You would privately decide how much you're keeping for defense and how much you're sending out on attack. And if you send a huge force to somebody who kept nothing back, you'd ravage them and get lots of resources. And you had to hope that while your army was away, nobody was attacking you. And so that was 1982. And then George tells the story about the fact that the problem was he had developed software. Nobody owned computers. So he went from selling software online to locally starting to sell computers so that it was just the need of the time. Out of that came a computer store that him and his partner David ran into the mid to late 90s. In the late 90s, I went to work there that was my job. I wanted to work at a computer store. In 2000, the owners sold the computer store to new owners. I stayed in touch with David and George. We'd become friends and stuff. In 2001, I visit to see an early alpha, pre-alpha, such an early development of the first Supreme Ruler on modern PC, complain about my work, and they're like, well, we got room in the basement. You want to come work with us? And so everything really was self-taught in those early years of working with spreadsheets, figuring out how to make the systems go, because I don't touch any code. And again, it sort of is where I've ended up as a career, that my title is that I'm project manager. And I now have the good fortune to be teaching project management at a community college here in Hamilton. But it wasn't where I'd set out to be. And all my experience is business based. I quite honestly have been taking some continuing ed courses because I want to have a diploma. It's a personal thing that I wish I had. You see, and now you got me talking about like my whole life story.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want.
Yeah, and so I feel very lucky to have gotten where I am. And I think it's been possible because I did understand systems, that I had done enough computer stuff over the years, like any good computer geek. I had built my own machine, I was installing my software, I was doing this sort of stuff. So when it came to designing, even though I didn't touch a line of code, I've always had a knack to be able to describe to our coders. I understand how they use variables. I understand how the systems are built, that I can describe the systems to them in ways that fit the zeros and ones that they have to make it all conform to. So yeah, and then just 20 years experience.